I'm Jeff Collins, running for State House District 25. I'm a lifelong resident of Rocky Mount, reared in a blue-collar family and neighborhood near Falls Road. My parents, not rich materially, did instill principles which guide me to this day. These foundations include faith in God, respect for other people, love for America, and a commitment to work hard and excel at whatever I do. At Rocky Mount Senior High School, I played for the 1973 State 4A baseball champions under Jerry Carter, was co-captain along with Phil Ford of the 74 basketball Griffins. I attended UNC on a Moorhead Scholarship, graduated in 1978, then spent 12 years teaching high school math and coaching baseball and basketball. Since 1992, I've been a financial consultant with AXA Advisors, an international financial company. My lovely wife, Beanie, and I have been married for 29 years, and we have 3 children, 3 grandchildren. Let me say, first of all, that I have never had any political ambitions whatsoever. When asked to run for this office, I only said I'll pray about it. But a month later, my wife and I were talking, and it dawned on me that I really had no choice but to run. Before I describe that conversation, let me state that we love North Carolina. God has blessed this state with natural beauty, resources, and location that are second to none. We love living in North Carolina, vacationing in North Carolina, and bragging to all our out-of-state friends about North Carolina. But I'm also deeply troubled for North Carolina. We now have the 9th highest unemployment in the country. With all our natural advantages, how is that possible? The Nonpartisan Tax Foundation ranks North Carolina 39th in its business tax climate. We rank 36th on income tax, 34th on sales tax, 37th on property tax, 41st on gas tax. Put all that together, and we as citizens of North Carolina pay a higher tax burden than all but 11 states out of 50. How do our neighboring states compare? South Carolina ranks 26th. Tennessee 22nd, and unfortunately for us, our nearest neighbor, Virginia, ranks 15th, 24 slots above us. In short, we can't attract employers to our area if they won't even consider our state because of excessive taxes. The state legislature is handicapping groups like the Gateway Partnership and our local chamber in their recruitment efforts. But high taxes also inhibit employment at businesses that are already here. As a company's tax burden increases, no new employees are hired and others are laid off. A third loss to our state's economy never gets talked about, but as one who helps clients plan for retirement, I'm painfully aware of it. This loss comes when retirees who have money and income leave North Carolina to live in states with lighter tax burdens, which brings me back to my conversation with Beanie. We were discussing where to live when we retire. While contemplating tax-friendly states to which we might move, I suddenly thought, wait a minute, this isn't right. I can't just flee North Carolina and let others suffer spiraling tax rates without trying to do something about it. That's when I knew I had to run. I want to serve in Raleigh to help restore the productivity and prosperity that some of you remember that we used to have in our area and our state. I want my grandchildren to have the same opportunity to prosper in North Carolina that I had. I want to represent citizens who are strapped because the taxes are so high on the money they make and on everything they buy and own. I want to represent those who want to work but can't find a job because of the unfriendly business environment the General Assembly has created. I want all North Carolinians to be able to prosper from their hard work. Thank you for listening to me, and I appreciate your vote in November.
Candidate Collins, if you would hold that microphone, how will you address the high unemployment rate among African Americans?
Well, number one, I agree with the statement the gentleman made before me. I think we have to address high unemployment rates across the board because we have the 9th highest unemployment rate in the country in North Carolina. That includes all our citizens. One thing I would do is realize the reality of employment as every survey in the last 20 years has shown. What our state government has done is made our tax situation so bad that our small companies can't hire people. Every survey has shown that for the last 20 years, all net employment gains have been made in small companies, not large corporations. There's been no increase in employment. Large corporations lay off a person for every person they have. And yet our state tax system is so egregious towards businesses that what do? We give $90 million in tax breaks to Google to come in. We give $280 million in tax break promises to Dell over 30 years. They last 4 years and leave Winston-Salem. We just this last session given $45 million over the next 10 years in tax concessions to Apple to start a facility that will hire 50 people. That's almost $1 million per person. And who's paying for all these tax breaks that these large corporations are getting? The small companies, the mom and pop shops that you and I own. Thank you.
Senator Collins, I would like to take a privilege here as the moderator and ask The question was unemployment rate among African Americans, and yes, it is high across the state, but it is a known fact that African Americans have a higher unemployment rate. Is there anything you would do to address that specifically?
Well, I think by putting more money back into the hands of small business people in communities like Rocky Mount, due to the nature of our, due to the logistics of our population, if people can start up small businesses here in Rocky Mount and hire people, who are they going to hire? Well, according to our racial breakdown, I'm assuming a large number of them are going to be African Americans because our population is largely African American. What's happened is the type of businesses we have in northeastern North Carolina are generally the small businesses that our General Assembly is raiding in order to get these large corporations to come in and move to western North Carolina or the Triangle or some area like that. A lot of our African American population is centered in eastern North Carolina and northeastern North Carolina. And the small businesses that we can start up, if we get to keep our money in our pockets, are being raided by these taxes that are used to give tax breaks to large corporations out in the central and western part of our state.
Thank you.
I'd just like to comment. I've read you everything I prepared, so I'd like to comment a little bit on some things I've heard. And I'd like to thank Mr. Knight and others personally for inviting us. I had 3 minutes, and I had 3 minutes worth to say, so I wanted to thank him publicly as well as personally for having us here. Several things I've heard tonight from other candidates I agree with. Number one, I agree with the fact that our education in North Carolina must have more diversity in order to help our dropout problem. And this will partially answer the thing you asked me about minority unemployment. Didn't have time to get into it in 1 minute. You know, when I was in high school, Rocky Mount Senior High, I had 453 of us that graduated in 1974. And 25 of them were in my 2-hour calculus class my senior year. But we had an auto shop over there. We had a wood shop as well as a metalworking shop. We had a brick masonry department that was constantly building beautiful new additions to our school. We had a Distributive Education Clubs of America, DECA. We had a Vocational Industrial Clubs of America, VICA. And everybody that graduated was able to do something. They were either able to go into college and further their education or get a job that paid good money out of high school. We need to go back to those things. Everybody doesn't need to take calculus. Everybody doesn't need to try to go to a four-year university. We need to make sure we educate people based on their proclivities. You know, the Bible says in Proverbs, train up a child in the way he should go. We use that to mean a lot of things, and I have to confess here to be an ordained minister as well, a lay minister. But that verse really means train up a child and push them in the way they're bent, what their natural inclinations are. And that's what we need to go back to in our education system. I also heard somebody say that you better be careful about numbers that are thrown around. People like to play numbers games, and I agree with that. I've heard some numbers tonight that kind of startled me. When I heard that the current General Assembly cut the budget by $4 billion, and yet another one let slip that they did spend the same $20 billion that they did the year before, evidently they were planning on a $4 billion increase in our budget last year, in admittedly the worst recession we've ever lived through. Can you imagine trying to budgeting to spend 20% more money than you had the year before in the middle of the worst recession? Where are they going to get that extra $4 billion from? Us, the taxpayers. Pay attention to what you hear. Pay attention to what you hear. I'm Jeff Collins, running for State House. If you live in my district in Nash County, I'd appreciate your vote. A couple of members second. Thank you.
Thank you.